5 years minimum average maturity. But more fund coming in that year, like 6, 7. Now it is coming for redemption. So that's become a problem for the country per se. So accordingly, they have relaxed now. The present policy is the most liberal and relaxed policy. So accordingly, they want more fund so that the old fund can be retired. So that reschedulement, everything has been permitted.
Refinancing is also.
So this is the most liberal form of the ECB, the circular which is today. So let's talk about what are the instruments. DRs, we call it deposit receipts. Deposit receipt, actional commercial borrowing, foreign currency convertible bond, foreign currency exchangeable bond, which is actually a surrogate of a depository receipt in the secondary form. Preference shares, we talk about. Primary, secondary offering, including following offering, right issue overseas. Equity linked instruments, what we call, on which the FDI cap applies, and debt instruments are governed by the ECB guidelines. So what we tried to cover in the next slide, that which are these instruments considered as a debt, which is hybrid, which are equity and others. Okay, so others means trade credit and all that is involved. Now when we talk about debt, it is ECB, basically a borrowing, preference shares, or other instrument which are nature of bias credit or extension of bias credits and all that. Hybrid, we say that FCCB, which is purely a money. FCEB is again exchangeable bond. So it is like if already you have a shares, then against that you are given a money and that money comes into India or remain outside. And future date it can be done. But this is only apply if you have a subsidiary, a listed subsidiary in India. So that I think Arvind is going to cover in detail these two portions, FCCB and FCEB and the trade credit. Now equity, GDR and the ADR. Now if we see, I mean ADR we are not covering today because if somebody can cover ADR, GDR subsequently, then the entire thing is covered. So you able to distinguish between what is the ADR, GDR, what is the commercial borrowing, ECB, convertible, all that. If you see the preference shares are appearing in the both. So it depends upon the terms of the preference shares. It will be classified either under the ECB or under the FDI. So the simple rule is that it is compulsory without any option. Then it is a equity.
Sorry, ADR GDR was not discussed during FDI?
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm FCB and all that.
So preference shares which are redeemable, like then it is an debt. As per, and this is amended from 2007, and accordingly ECB guideline will be applicable. But since it is issued in rupee, basically all in cost, you have to include the hedging cost for that particular tenor. That is the only difference between this one. So today what we are going to discuss, that okay, who can borrow, from whom you can borrow, how much, and you use it for what. These are the key principles if you look at it, and for which you require pre-approval and for which you require post-approval. Post-approval means post-filing, automatic rule and approval rule. This is what we are going to discuss. So is it in the subsection 3D, the circular being issued, this is what we call master circular. So this is the master under from FEMA coming in, where the power are given to the RBI to frame the rules. Now it is basically ECB's commercial loan in the form of bank loan, bias credit, supplier credit. These are all amended subsequently. In the bias credit will come to a specific case when it comes to securitized instrument, floating, fixed, bond, non-convertible, optionally convertible, partly convertible. Okay, this is all. When the moment you say optionally or partly or other, then it is a ECB. Preference shares. This is from, as we said, from 1st May 2007, considered as a basically non-convertible as a equity. Minimum average maturity, you have to see that okay, whenever you borrow, you cannot pay before a particular date. That is a key thing. When you see the ECB, any lending is there, then you have to see that it can be only minimum average to depend upon the quantum. It is, we have covered in the next slide, quantum. It can be have a minimum period of average maturity. There is a method and the madness for calculation of the average maturity. People are compounding it quarterly, but now RBI has given strict formula, so you can calculate on a daily basis. Then it can be availed from non-resident only. The local person cannot give you ECB, and it is by a resident in India. Then only the ECB guidelines applied. So it has to be received by a resident in India, even if you branch overseas branch, then it is covered. But if it is a subsidiary, then it is not covered. So let's say you have a subsidiary there and that you borrow and that one you can bring in. The ECB does not apply. You will have some other problem which you will have that routing.
So borrowing by an overseas branch of an Indian company also is covered in the ECB.
Yeah, it is covered.
So my foreign, US branch.
Let's say ICICI Singapore branch or a London branch,
Huh.
it is covered. But if you go from ICICI India, then it is not ECB.
Correct me, but say for example, a Reliance US branch is availing loan from a
Branch?
US
Branch,
bank.
yes. Subsidiary, no.
ECB.
Because that is sitting in your balance sheet.
But in that circular of 2006, they said that overseas branch are not allowed to avail any loan or enter into financial transactions on behalf of the parent company. So strictly speaking,
So now they
whether
amended
branch-
and they put into automatic route, and only the banks are permitted for a particular refinancing of the deals that to the infrastructure.
Okay.
So basically you don't get permission because the moment it goes to a branch, it requires approval. So they have specified what you can do automatic, rest they leave it
Practically,
to.
have you seen any cases where, or anybody has seen any cases where an overseas branch has availed a forex facility outside India?
Reliance, yes.
Foreign branch has availed a forex facility outside India.
But after that they
But
go
complying to ECB guidelines or under approval?
approval route, and now they are not giving it.
Okay. Now we are-
Because then you don't have a control, because ultimately you don't get the money here, but then you're taking obligation to pay in future.
in future.
But there is a reverse, like if there is a recent amendment, last 6 months after the BJP government. If you want to raise debt in India, then your foreign company can give you guarantee. Any foreigner can give you guarantee.
Okay.
And then suppose you are defaulted on that instrument, then you have to repay that, right? From out. Then if CB guideline will pay. As per the what coupon you can pay, what guarantee commission you can pay.
Right.
So you have to basically look into from that angle. Can be accessed under automatic route, prior approval from RBI, Government of India not required because it is they are educated to RBI means authorized dealer. You cannot go to RBI directly, you have to go through authorized dealer. That's a simple, although the circular mention about that. Approval route require prior approval.
Putting down a question regarding
Branch.
regarding the overseas branch. If there are more practical experiences with the vendor will come, if you can share. So I'm
Yeah.
just noting down a question.
This permission is given to the banks basically
Correct.
for refinancing in the infrastructure.
Okay.
So Exim Bank is the example because they don't have any subsidiary overseas.
Okay.
So they have banks. So for them they have kept the tap open,
Okay.
but the tap is only available to
What about Bank of Baroda or
no.
UBI
no.
having an overseas
Only
subsidiary?
for refinancing steel sector because that is going under the big power pen. I've covered
Okay.
that who is permitted to do that. Otherwise, like banks and all that, they cannot borrow ECB.
Okay.
No,
They
absolutely.
cannot have a local funding out there.
No.
This means they cannot take a deposit from
Yeah, that's one.
a foreigner.
Then they
Bank
become
of
that
Baroda
FCNRB.
is
That is
Dubai
FCNRB then. Against that is NRI deposit or a foreign deposit. They have a branch there, so they can take deposit from that, but that doesn't come under ECB. Banks are given special license for commodities. So for corporate, it is not given.
No, sorry. So Bank of Baroda having a Dubai branch.
They can take deposit
They
there.
can take deposits from a foreign national, from NRI, anybody outside.
They can
Okay. So their ECB guidelines would not apply.
not apply.
Okay.
So what we have tried, because if you read the circular, there is a confusion that you will find that both name appearing in both. So I tried to distinguish in a simpler form. So you say what comes under the automatic and what comes under the approval. So corporate, the corporate can borrow. Of course, which corporate, which sector, and all that we have covered in subsequent. So basically, I'll give you a theme that who can borrow, okay, and for what purpose. The people who are in the real sector. That is not in the real sector, but manufacturing. What you say is the manufacturing and the service to the infrastructure sector. Hospital, hotels, and the power sector being the separate for the services being provided. Just giving principle we have covered in detail. So corporate up to $750 million under automatic route, subject to the eligible borrower. Eligible borrower means real sector, and that I have covered subsequently. Then go to the next is approval. That anything above 750, it goes to approval route, and depending upon the requirement of the country, then the position they give you. Service. Corporate in service sector, hospitals, hotels and software. They are being permitted up to $200 million. more than 200 goes to the approval route. Now, NBFC, that is basically, if you look at this NBFC, are all related to the infrastructure. It cannot give only if you are lending to infrastructure, then it is being permitted for re-lending it to the infrastructure companies, whether by way of asset financing or by way of the infrastructure. Of course, they are subject to, so they cannot borrow more than 75% of their net worth. Net owned fund. So owned fund. We tried to find out if you see everywhere net owned fund, but here only it is coming own fund. So there's a difference of the definition in the own fund and the net own fund. So that we will, I think that question we will be parking for this one. The definition of net owned fund is all your reserve minus all accumulated losses and all that liabilities, and we reduce it. So that is the net owned fund.
So what is owned funds?
If you see the definition.
Yeah.
Net owned fund, what is the definition they say? That your net worth minus whatever you invested into your subsidiary will be reduced. It is not chartered account and net worth fund.
It is defined in the RBI regulations?
Yes.
In this regulations.
Net owned fund, right?
Net owned fund. So it says investment of such company. So what they say, accumulated balances of your total net worth reduced by accumulated balances, deferred revenue expenditure and other intangible assets like goodwill and all that. Okay. So that is your net own fund. Now net own, they have not defined own fund. They define net own fund. So net own fund means you further reduce by the amount representing investment of such company in shares of its subsidiary, company in its same group, and all non-banking financial companies.
This is what they generally consider as banking network.
Yes.
For banking purposes, the CMA में they just delete this.
So this is what the catch is, trying to point it out when you calculate for any NBFC, basically the infrastructure finance.
Even RBI NBFC norms or capital adequacy ratio.
Even for that,
Even for that net owned funds, I don't know whether it is defined in the same manner.
the requirement of net owned funds of 2 crores.
Yeah,
That's what the industry, representation by the banks. You calculate on the basis of consolidation. You don't allow me to invest into subsidiary, and then you don't consider that as a shares.
Correct.
And then they further say the book value of debentures, bond, and also including the in the same also they are now not considering it. So whatever your investment into subsidiary or a group company or into any other NBFC has to be reduced from your net worth. So basically you left with a very small amount.
Basically your capital.
Yeah, your capital. Not even capital.
Not even capital.
So
Normally your investment in subsidiary is more than your capital.
So basically their intention is you don't form a company to invest into that. You do business. Most of the funds are
Let that company borrow.
If you have a subsidiary, let that company borrow.
See, otherwise what happens? You can do a multiple borrowing. You do borrowing here on the basis of net worth. You go also borrowing there also.
And the net on funds.
Logic doesn't understand because each person take a.
You do business with that 2 CR. You don't invest into your subsidiaries and all. Probably.
For the NBFC.
For the NBFC.
So this logic.
Even if you are, the point is they are making only one capital exclusive. So when you invested in the subsidiary, it will not be qualifying for taking a ECB because by including that capital that way. So capital will return only one character. So that's why probably they're trying to exclude.
Borrow to the extent of 75% of your funds, own fund, net.
So here they have not used the net.
Correct.
But everywhere otherwise they use the net on fund when we come to a So basically this NBFC, IFC, AFC asset finance concession, and this is microfinance. If all these three are basically to NBFCs, not normal NBFCs, normally specific for infrastructure and then for regulation.
These are not normal.
MFI there is no limit.
There is a MFI, there is a no. But if you see the lending limit, you will go mad. So you cannot give to any borrower who is more than 60,000 earning. The maximum lending can be 35,000 rupees. So how much पूरा इंडिया का कैलकुलेशन पूरा पॉपुलेशन भी कर लो तो नहीं होएगा. So automatically it is capped, and it is very well regulated by RBI in different norms. So that is for e-lending. Then SIDBI, again for MSME funding. This is basically for on lending. So up to 50% of their own funds, and balance is a loan.
Just to interrupt, the recent circular is again using the word 75% of owned funds for IFC
That's
also. For IFC,
IFC also.
not net owned funds. It is saying owned funds only.
Net own fund.
Owned funds for IFC also and AFC also.
Is it? Of their own funds.
Both of them are owned.
Here it is own only, right?
The one you have, IFC you have written net owned. No?
Okay, IFC is net. Okay, so that might be. We will correct it. Yes.
Should we check the circular? Because
That is what
This is the circular.
circular or master circular?
Master
Master
circular.
So original circular wherein this was introduced,
Maybe
there might be typos in.
we'll check it. We'll revert back on this. Just park it. We'll clarify it. Right? It is as per this. So you have to be very careful. Why I am highlighting this? Because sometimes you read and apply, and then you get bounce back, and especially in automatic route, penalties are very heavy. Approval route they will reject only.
Right.
And sometimes authorized dealer when you select has to be very intelligent. And normally we select the person who give you the fastest in practical life. Kal chahiye. I mean the LRN approval you get in, we used to get in 1 hour. 1 hour when the RBI was in full swing.
Which is how many years back?
All these FCCB issues were there ना. Morning 10 बजे फाइल किया, शाम को 1 बजे चाहिए, because शाम को 3 बजे खोलना है. That was. But now it takes about, in recent time it takes about
35-40 years?
no, less than a week.
Less than a week?
Less than a week.
At least a year back.
Yeah, year back it was
40,
like
45
oh Manmohan Singh ना. Congress. Oh, 3 महीने तक रखाया हुआ है.
45 days.
And best thing, they don't allow you to interact with them. So you have to go and sit with your authorized dealer. उसको पकड़ के लेके जाओ RBI में बैठाओ. You stand outside. But now at least they entertain you. If directly corporate go, they don't entertain the consultant, but they entertain the company.
In fact, now is there.
Yeah.
1 week is a good time.
अरे 3 दिन में भी देखो. If you have a good you get it. Because now country need foreign currency, ना. The problem is money. तुम किधर से भी लाओगे? So if you see the policies being opened up, so this is always, I told you, this is the tool by which they control. They know that next year there is a heavy outflow of the ECBs which they avail long back. An average maturity of 5 years. 2008-9 was the problem. 2009 was the economic downflow. So that time lot of money is being raised under the automatic route. So that was average maturity was 5 years. So now it is coming for redemption. 16-17. So अभी पूरा खोल दिया है. So your practice is you can promise your client that you will get in 7 days.
And which is the ideal AD for say ECB purpose when it comes?
From the practical experience.
Yeah, practice.
So when you select AD, in our office we call don't select ADA. ADA in Maharashtrian is pagal. So AD is basically if you go to HDFC, they will call you 4 times. ये नहीं है, वो नहीं, as it is approving it. So ideal is ICICI or Axis. Don't go to the PSUs.
The problem with HDFC is that they have a very good forex team who want to actually go into the team.
But when you go, check with them. You can't change your AD.
Yeah.
And secondly, now banks started charging you for the authorized dealer. So if you talk to Axis and if you don't know, he will charge you 10 paisa of the amount which you are raising. So let's say you are raising 50 million. You had it and you can't do anything. When you sign agreement, you sign. So you have to negotiate that.
Is it official?
Official. You started? अरे next year का maintenance के लिए they started charging. They need profits. Same ICICI started doing. ICICI $10,000, $15,000 ऐसा किया है. इसने तो percentage में चालू कर दिया. So those they debit to your account. You don't know. You know but you don't bargain. ठीक है यार ये तो लगता ही है. It's like depository receipt when you do GDR issue. Very classic. Karthik, I must share the example there. We were doing GDR issue. So we appointed a depository, a global depository in Singapore. So they said, okay, the agreement if you say, and agreement is that they will not charge any fees because they are charging from the investor when they convert into a share. So there's already one, and in fact they pay you also. As per RBI you don't take, so we tell them to pay the printer directly and all that. So they give you a agreement where they say okay, all these services you will get free. There will be a laundry list of like a menu of a 5-star hotel, you know. Lebanese se laga ke pura vada pav tak you will have everything on the menu, and for everything there is a charge. And last में they say we waived. So we said मेरे को चाहिए ही नहीं तेरी ये सब. I don't want to get into your website. And they waived. And the condition in the agreement कि if when you do a second time and you don't appoint them DR, then all this will be chargeable. So $2-3 million का bill आपको आ जाएगा. 90% of the Indian corporate, including Tatas, have signed that agreement without reading it. It is a small lawyer who pointed out, no, you should not sign. He said, I am giving you free, no, nothing, why you can't sign? It is standard, we can't change, you know. Typically you get that. I said, boss, second time I forget also, कि 5 साल पहले मैंने issue किया था किसी और का. That time I don't want, they can charge you for that. Whatever way it can be charged. So be careful when.
CFO might have changed.
Huh?
The CFO might have changed.
So that is one. So SEZ very interesting. Again, this is a question which we want to park. Eligible borrower they mentioned SEZ unit. So it is a unit of a company. You cannot transfer to a sister concern and all that.
Utilization has to be for that.
Yes. So now unit can be a branch, can be a LLP, owned by LLP. There is no. So these are like, you know, if you talk to bank, various banks, you will get different view from different banks. Certain banks say that okay, LLP we have granted. Then we ask specific question under automatic or approval. They said automatic. Then it is a sword which is hanging on that. So they mention SEZ unit. So whether LLP own
other entities other than LLP.
Are they?
With a trust partnership they don't allow because that is not a legal. So SEZ developers.
Are LLPs allowed to get themselves registered in SEZ units?
Infrastructure, yes. Infrastructure. So if you look at it, the SEZ developers again. Now, okay, developers now they have not defined the entity. Like everywhere they have defined the entity. Here the SEZ developers for infrastructure facility in that. So when they give you for SEB, only for the infrastructure sector, not for the commercial or residential sector. So because it is a larger unit, so internal roads, drainage, electricity and all that, for that it is being permitted. Holding company or core investment company. Okay. So let's say you have a holding company and then you have 3 subsidiaries in which you want. So instead of borrowing at the individual level, you borrow at the top level, which is being permitted recently. And again, the definition you have to read of the core investment company. That means more they should only invest in the subsidiary shares. They cannot trade unless there is a block deal. And more than 90% investment should be in such type of assets. So this is the definition you have to apply. Otherwise, you will go.
Yes.
And they should, just to add, they should not hold or accept public deposits also.
Yeah. No outside borrowing, like other than this borrowing. But no mad person looking at Indian taxation will do that. 14A, 8D, all this nonsense will come into it. This is very interesting. Companies in miscellaneous services, you know. So when we say companies in miscellaneous services, like training activities and R&D activities. Okay, but and their support services, but does not include consulting, logistics, and all that. So when you say training, it's a medical training, paramedical, but does not include education. Okay. This is specifically they provided for. This is the biggest tool corporate under investigation. This is special information I put that, you know, let's say you're permitted under this automatic route. Okay, but they have give you one love letter. Ki, please give me this information. That means investigation is on in their language under the FEMA. If they seek any information, it's an investigation. Okay, so then you have to go under auto approval route. This was the position prior to this 6 months before.
RBI clarification letter be investigation.
by the ED office. Okay. So RBI or this one. So anything such of nature, it was an approval route. So that means when they don't want, country doesn't want foreign money to come in, they will give you some love letters to 100, 200 large corporates. So they can regulate the inflow accordingly. And so that was the position, and we struggle a lot to get such approvals, 3 months. An investigation notice was sent in 2009. You have submitted all information, there is no outcome by the FEMA office, and still you are under approval route. So for any remittance abroad, you are under approval route. So when it comes, so that is become a big
So how
issue.
will the matter get solved? I mean, RBI
Then so now what happened?
reply them.
So now they have changed. This is when I say this circular, the last 6 months, they have changed this, and they say, okay, investigation pending, you can raise it, but you will go to approval if you have been violating, or appeal is pending from that side. Like you want the appeal, then you are under automatic. You lost appeal and there is appeal pending by the, then it will be under the. Banks not permitted. I have specifically put about. There are carve-out which we will talk about. NBFC other than above, individual trust other than microfinance trust, section 25 companies can borrow if they are using microfinance. This one, and financial intermediary other than this are not. So what I am trying to say is only these type of corporates are permitted, and there is again how much you can borrow. There is no limit on that. Only a cap is there that this much should be the.
Companies might have an issue if they are registered with charity commission borrowings. That could be an issue for them.
No. You have to take approval from the
Charity.
any section 25 company. Borrowing first need to be taken by the memorandum. Then you have to apply to charity commissioner for the approval, because the assets cannot be charged without the approval of the.
Practically possible.
Practically
They are giving charity commission.
If you see now, section 25 is the biggest hit. Today, if you know that if you apply for a medical college or educational institute, right, you will not get license unless it is a trust.
Correct.
But if you see, all are minting money. So,
Societies are also getting license.
so section 25 you get it registered and form a management company which do the management, property owned by some other company that is again taken on a lease. So you are doing business only to avoid these licenses. So medical college or educational institute, you cannot do it unless it is a trust. So people are using this route as the biggest route. But people are not keeping nowadays the property into it. Well, previously a lot of 2 number money. So then trust में डाल दो, सबके नंबर से बिल्डिंग बना दो. All these नेता लोग, it is the biggest money parking institute for them, section 25. But now they are permitted.
Then earlier people used to do it for FDI as well. For investment into a trust was not possible, so it was not easy. People used to have investment in this management companies, and management company will have a specific agreement of X number of X amount of fees every year with the trust to give a appropriate IRR to the foreign.
We have covered separate point, because one also, if you have a foreign client, and then they can give a ECB to Indian subsidiaries, which is, if you see, the risk is not there. So from parent you can borrow, or from a sister company you can borrow. So that we have covered somewhere else. As a specific, there are limit to that. So this is an instrument which is helpful to avoid FDI direct investment. You may having a 2 group and invest from some other group, maybe because of some. Again, we are on the approval route, specific like on lending by Exim Bank for a specific purpose. So even they have said that Exim Bank can borrow under the approval route, but for a specific case. Now, financial instrument clearly exclusive with infrastructure and export financing. So basically, this is the India Infrastructure Fund which has been raised to refinance. ECB with minimum availability of 5 NBFC for infrastructure. Again, they say material financial institution. So share capital is one of the example if you put it here. Under this NBFC, what you call it, is neither a bank nor it is a. So they only fund to the infrastructure. So average maturity of 5 years. So again, it goes to approval route. NBFC exclusively involved in the financing infrastructure, raising the multinational regional financing institution for government or development and all that. Low cost housing project by builder developer. We have covered this separately. We'll come to that. FCCB by HFCs. Okay, that is also given to a net worth of more not to be less than 500 crores. Minimum FCC is this much amount. So it is not open for any Diwan housing, or it should be only for listed one. So basically only one company qualifies, that is LIC Housing. Even
HDFC is not.
even the ICICI Home Finance does not qualify.
Even HDFC is not.
HDFC does not qualify. So all these SPV entities set by RBI, then we say so. This is but ECB for housing finance company is separate. FCCB not permitted. You just look at the wording. FCCB by HFC not permitted. ECB for HFC there is a separate clause, but they made it such a stupid guidelines that nobody will be able to borrow. SPV other entities than RBI financing companies project exclusively. So again, this is a lot of theme has been given on the infrastructure. There is a separate definition for the infrastructure which we have told. Multi-state cooperative societies engage in manufacturing activity, carrying out character cooperative. This is basically a cooperative society like Amul. They are being permitted to do that. Multi-state cooperative. Development of ICZ and National Manufacturing Investment Zone. So developers of ICZ for their infrastructure facilities, not for the everything. Other cases not falling under automatically, you can apply and you will get always rejected. No, if it is not fitting into, they will always reject. There is a standard RBI, this one, unless it is given for some, to save some NPA of some bank and all these nonsense. Right? So when I just go back to the slide, here a corporate, we forgot whether it is a real sector, it is corporate for a real sector. And the infrastructure we covered separate. So if you are not having manufacturing, you have only service company, you cannot take ECB. So that is
So one question.
Sure.
Generally, a subsidiary in India, MNC company having presence in India, and they are making payments to their group entities abroad, say royalty payment, fees for technical services, whatsoever. So they are paying this, they are required to file their return in India. So typically consultants raise invoice on Indian company, or Indian company pays on behalf of the overseas parties to the consultant, and then they recharge. So is there any problem in doing that? Typically, this is one scenario. Even at times consultants pay the taxes on behalf of the foreign clients and then they recover subsequently. So it's like a temporary, we are funding to a non-resident. So will the borrowing and lending regulation per se apply to that type
it is
of
not a
contract?
borrowing, it is a service you provide, cost plus service.
But if
So
I'm
your
covering
contract
at
has to be,
cost basis, I mean,
no, there is a markup. If you see the chartered accountants, a large chartered accountant, I don't want to name, I'll tell you offline. If they pay tax on behalf of any of their MNC clients because they don't have a bank account, PAN number and all this nonsense
Right.
for paying taxes and online now, they charge 25% of the tax they pay as a service fee. Very renowned chartered accountant in tax. We started in our office. Also the same, following him. Nobody pays, that is separate. But at least communication has gone. That okay, many times what happens, foreigner wants to form a company. You pay, then you reimburse, by the bank account open, then you take it. So initially preliminary expenses, there is exemption. But after that, it is not exemption. Otherwise, you are a bank, right?
right.
And now you start service charge on that. So service not, I'm talking about service tax, service charge. So then you are doing a business. That is not permitted. Unless you have a contract that okay, I'll do this, we file with this, then he will take you to the trade credit.
Even if I am facilitating it for a group company as a first example, still it would still say that it is payment on behalf
Of a non-resident.
It should strictly still fall under 3D and not allowed.
That's what I'm saying. Even the trade, it will not be allowed. So you're doing it, but small amounts, okay, but large amounts cannot.
Small amounts RBI would not bother
Bother.
catching hold of it.
It not come into the notice.
And genuinely there is no intention to see.
Lend,
Section 3
actually.
basically is to protect
Protect.
Awala or to protect
Right, agree.
unfortunately.
See,
There is no
practically-
intention to do it. There is no
Practically what we did, those people don't have a bank account. So we tell them to put into a Nostro account.
Okay.
And then you give a direct instruction from Nostro account for a particular.
Okay.
Till then it remain with the bank, it doesn't come to you. So it's classic example that you want to do some MOU, some transaction outside country, and the money has to be kept in escrow. So international people don't believe in each other, right?
Right.
So you give me this thing, this money will be released from escrow. Now if I have to open an escrow account, I have to go to RBI
Right.
and take approval. 15 days gap, and nobody waits in international for 15 days. So what we do, we tell their banker and give me a Nostro account. So I have remitted to a Nostro account and say release the fund hold the fund till further instructions.
Okay.
And I give a letter to their lawyer
They have kept the
that this letter is in your escrow.
Okay.
So if he give me delivery note, I give him this. So you save your headache and charges. So you can use Nostro account if the amount is big.
Okay. And otherwise also receiving first and then incurring cost will make sense.
You think you're doing a NBFC then, na? Trade credit very specifically for certain things you can do, certain things you cannot do. तो तुम कर रहे हो बात अलग है, चलता है. Now from who you can borrow? Very important. You cannot borrow from any Tom Harry, right? So basically international banks. That is the one. But that also international refinancing of rupee loan, it is not permitted. There are carve-outs which I'll come to you separately. Okay. Indian banks refinancing is not permitted. International bank you can do from everything. Now international banks means any bank which is outside country. Okay. Secondly, international capital market. This is very important. If you look at this FCCB, always people have gone for listed FCCB. तो छोटे से स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में लग्जमबर्ग में और सिंगापुर नॉट ऑन द मेन बोर्ड ऑन साइड बोर्ड दे गेट इट लिस्टेड व्हाई बिकॉज देन योर एलिजिबल बोरोर लिस्ट कम्स बिग so those who are registered with that stock exchange QIBs and all what you call qualified institutional investors or PMS portfolios, they can invest into your FCCBs. We will cover in the next session when FCCB how it gets split into two instruments immediately on the sale. So people used to do like Barclays want to sell FCCB. So suppose you don't want to do a listed FCCB which is permitted, then you sell it to Barclays, but he will not be able to sell to somebody because it is not a capital market transaction. So with a small fee of 10,000 you can get it listed. So then your lenders become big. That is the people using FCCB as a listed instrument. और उसको स्टॉक एक्सचेंज को कुछ नहीं जाता है तो मेरे एक्सचेंज में आके मेरे को पैसा लेके जाते हैं तो क्या करना एंड अप्रूवल्स यू गेट इन अ डे बट लॉयर्स चार्ज यू हैव इट इन द चार्टर मल्टीनेशनल फाइनेंशियल institutions Asian Development Bank and CDC, basically UK Development Fund, that is erstwhile. So these, you can borrow from that. Basically any institution registered with the government there. So any country, they can put into the money. They want money from institutions, not from individuals. दाऊद से पैसा नहीं ले सकते. Unless you do some E as a PMS and then you form a FCCB.
Institution also regulated, right?
Regulated institution.
So an NBFC which may not be regulated in say US or UK,
Right.
you can't borrow friends.
No, qualified institutions, what we said about buyers. Those who are registered as like in India also, ECB, QIP when you do, you can only give it to QIP and then rest is only small to the retailers. So you can only take from QIP. Again, if you do take it from the UK or US, then you have to file separate filing. Regulation S, 144A, these are the two things. So regulation S means you cannot take from these 13 jokers, US-led jokers. So they come to Mauritius and from there you take it. 144A means you can offer without filing into US. Otherwise it is area. Filing in US means you have to raise separate fund for paying the lawyers.
There was this Mauritian banks accommodating such kind of transactions earlier. I don't know if it's going still, but if you are not a regulated entity outside India and you still want to lend to India, you put an FD with Mauritian bank. The bank will give an ECB to the Indian company. It's purely structured transaction. It will keep it small margin and remit the balance amount as interest on FD.
So there outside money, it's a wealth management what we call.
It's basically facilitating ECB.
हम लोग इंडिया में एंट्री बोलते हैं ना उसको हम लोग वेल्थ मैनेजमेंट बोलते हैं
ये बहुत होता था
और इट्स बिग मनी वेल्थ मैनेजर्स यू सी बैंक ऑफ सिंगापुर मॉरिशस बिग वे मार्केटिंग सिटी बैंक
if I can't borrow from Exco, it goes and puts a FD with the bank in Mauritius or Singapore, and bank lends me and keeps it margin.
But what happened?
Even in India, many times banks, the NRIs keep FDs in India. The bank allows to borrow, to lend someone against those FDs. So if NRIs can directly give loan to the party, the Indian residents, what they do is they keep FDs in the banks. In the they have an agreement or they have an arrangement with the bank. The bank will lend to the third party against
a guarantee, right? That is also not permissible. NRI guaranteeing for an Indian company is not permissible.
It is not kind of a guarantee.
If the FD is kept as a collateral, it is a guarantee. It will get covered under guarantee regime.
The agreement is in such a way. Probably
probably they are not linking the FD with
they are
the
not
loan
linking.
transaction. There are two different
They
agreements.
cannot. They cannot. So this was a typical CDS was happening, like lending is by somebody and Indian banks having foreign branch giving comfort. If default होगा तो मैं पैसा दूंगा, you give me 2% commission. So typically when you do this,
No, ECB में भी करते हैं. What they do is they take an SBLC from the foreign group company, keep it with them. They lend out here based on that SBLC, but they don't connect the two.
right. So now RBI has come into picture. They have put specific, which we have covered, that you cannot give guarantee. Indian banks cannot give guarantee even for the refinancing, except for the takeout finance, that for initial 2 years. So no bank, Indian bank can give guarantee outside. It is not permitted, then it is not ECB. Reverse is permitted. Credit enhancement, if you see the circular, there is a credit enhancement. So that is permitted. So basically if you look at this NBFC and all these, all are for IFC or AFC, is only for infrastructure. Beyond that it is not. Because otherwise it was very big table. So I said it is basically infra table. So it is all NBFC and all that. Other than the real sector, borrowing from the institutional borrowing, individuals, and there are companies from which your parent company you can borrow, but there is a separate note on that, which is next one. So if you are having a subsidiary in India and you have a parent in foreign, so you can take from parent up to, there are two, up to 5 million, and then we talk about more than 5 million. Okay. So what it is saying that under automatic route, you can take 25, you should hold 25% of the company. So let's say you form a company in India and parent is holding 25%, then they can take up to a direct holding 25%, and if you have an indirect holding, then it is 51%. And this 1:2 debt equity, it is not a debt equity, it is what proportion of money they put into the company, ECB. So let's say it is not that company ka debt equity. It is basically, let's say I am remitting $10 million into a company. So 2 million is I put as a equity, then 4 times of that I can give as a ECB under automatic route, 7 times under approval route.
Even the equities vis-a-vis might say 20% of holding.
No. In proportion to your first condition, direct holding 25%. Less than 25, you cannot take from that. If you're holding now, irrespective of 21 or anything above up to 100% also, whatever money they have put as a equity, 4 times of that you can take under the approval route, and 7 years maturity period and all that is there. I'm saying eligible lenders we talk about today. So 4 times of that you can, but if you want more than 4 times, then you go to the approval route for this one.
Sorry, in the previous slide, foreign collaborators we have. What is there
in the 25%? Foreign collaborator, we have a question for that. They mentioned foreign collaborator, but actually they wanted a foreign collaborator having 25%. So that is not specifically mentioned here.
Because technical collaboration is allowed.
Allowed for license fees and all that, again that you can borrow. That is allowed also under the trade credit now, and it is also allowed under the FDI, but subject to end use restrictions.
Yeah, but the criteria that he is a collaborator. So are there any defined criteria?
Then that means collaborator means you have purchased some technology. To that extent you can borrow from them. Deferred payment, what you call. So that is permitted. And if you see the form 83, there is a specific mention about that. So then suppose you don't have a collaboration, like you are forming a subsidiary, no collaboration, right? It is the only parent role. This is for that.
Is equity holding defined anywhere? Equity holding defined anywhere?
Yeah, it's very clearly defined. The equity means equity plus free reserves, including share waiver, which is the foreign currency or control share.
No, that
And
is
preference shares, if it is compulsory convertible,
how
it
do you
is equity.
calculate 25% equity? It is pure equity or you include convertible equity, convertible debt or not?
No, pure equity. Paid up capital dimension.
Okay.
Although for the purpose of FDI, this is the equity, but
Correct.
till it is converted, it is not.
Okay.
For FDI, you include CCD, but here you do not include
So
CCD.
if I have massive investments in CCPS or CCD, no equity. Convertible to say to the extent of 50% also.
Indirectly उसने वो use कर ही लिया ना funding. All foreigners what they do today, if you see the arbitrage, CCDs. So we have developed new product for them now. क्यों CCD करते हो? तुम equity डालो. See, what is the tax rate, effective tax rate in India?
No, but CCDs they are guaranteed, na? Okay.
बताओ. What is that? नहीं. They are doing it. Why they are doing CCD? Let's understand. Okay. Till the company make profit, they want to pay interest. So उसमें टैक्स डिडक्शन मिल जाता है, उधर उनका आर्बिट्राज हो जाता है, खत्म हो जाता है, राइट? बाद में कुछ बचता ही नहीं, तुम्हारा प्रिंसिपल बचता है, उसको बंद करके वापस लेके चले जाओ. So you're converting and you're taking it out, and there is no reserve being built because your entire profit you have taken by way of the coupon.
Correct.
So effective tax rate is 43%, 48% according to me, 46%.
Yeah, it is not.
What is the, if foreigner puts money, when any Gora call you,
Huh.
they record your call, right?
Hmm.
So what he asks you question, what I will earn and how much I will be able to take,
See,
tax rates.
They do it from a efficient jurisdiction. Na? Singapore hai, Cyprus hai, 10% interest, 15%. Then there is.
No, forget about. I'm talking about the effective. If somebody asks, what is effective tax rate? What do you say?
In for the corporates in India.
33%, 30
Yeah.
plus surcharge, education, whatever is 33. Balance you left with 67%. I think. Now on that 20% either buyback or either dividend distribution. So 67 का 20 is 13.
You don't have a debt.
So 46% हो गया.
Right.
नहीं नेट प्रॉफिट के बाद ही है ना 46% आपका
हाँ.
टैक्स हो गया. Effectively, so if he earns 1 rupee in India, he gets 54.
Right.
46 years by government direct and that distribution or buyback. So then people develop this product called CCD. Correct? So their maximum profit they can take it out and they get full deduction here and they pay a lesser tax in the different geography.
Same
And all
on the
that.
DDT basically.
Right? DDT and taxability here also get reduced.
Like
We develop
essentially it is saving DDT.
Yeah, so we develop new product. We issue debentures, listed debentures.
Yeah.
So don't come into the ECB guideline also. Yeah, anybody can invest from any fund, and you got a deduction of 5% only up to a particular period. So you get away with 5% tax.
But that is
But
for
then
only
for
infrastructure.
infrastructure, no?
That is only for infrastructure.
You can do debentures through Mauritius route. You apply the double treaty, and you trade it. So there is no debentures can be subscribed by any. So they have various companies from where to put. So equity is put by you. The debentures is put by somebody else. So there was a surrogate happening that all debentures were allotted to NBFC and then NBFC was selling. If you look at it, now they are permitted कि okay within 15 days you have to allow NCDs. So listed entity, listed entity, and listed you can do in 10 lakh rupees cost. Any private limited can also issue listed entity. So that is a big tax arbitrage.
but how
But there is a limit. There is a limit, overall limit by the RBI. So previously used to buy quota, Morgan Stanley and all that used to buy quota by paying premium in the auction from the SEBI. I think that's been now waived. Anybody can do unlimited, but they have overall cap. So once that is there, they will notify कि now no limit left. I'm telling you, this cannot be put on the.
Because it's not there.
I cannot put, na?
Still initially it has to be supplied by an NBFC and then transferred.
No, that is gone now. That is gone. That's
So
gone.
you're saying a
Specific.
private limited company can have a listed NCD.
Yes.
Can you sell an NCD to a non-resident?
Any company can have a listed. Private limited are allowed to
Have a listed. That can be bought by anyone. There's
No, that
restriction.
cannot be bought by anybody, na?
Huh? Anybody. So Indian
Yes,
rupee.
yes.
Your obligation in Indian rupee. Anybody can subscribe.
Indian passport.
QFI
See,
can
if it is unsecured,
buy.
if it is unsecured, then you will
And
have
there
put
are huge
restrictions.
restrictions on the real estate and all those things.
No, there is no end use restriction
On
also on the NCD. I'm not talking about the foreign route. I'm talking local.
Local route only.
So any FI, QIV, they can purchase and then they sell it to them.
They could
Unsecured. Only the issue is unsecured. Unsecured cannot be purchased by individual. Then it is a deposit.
In fact, we did this thing wherein a transaction wherein an Indian real estate company was attracting investment from a Mauritius FIIs, and we did a listed this thing. So even that listed agreement and all, even the debt agreement, the subscription agreement had a lot of this thing, security clauses.
See, there are two. Security is one thing. Who can issue? Who can subscribe? These are we talk about. Security is between borrower and lender. Okay, you are comfortable with no security. Thank you very much. If you want too many securities, I'll give you. Right? Banks cannot give you guarantee for that. So the listed which have security is nothing to do. They will have a huge security. You cannot sell. The venture trust deed will have n number of conditions running up to 30 pages. So here we talk about who can subscribe. So no guidelines ECB FDI applicable.
Schedule 2, 3, 4 and all will be applicable for FIIs, for QFIs, for whatever. Those two things will be applicable.
This is a secondary transaction. Na? They can buy it then. Na? Let's say GIC. GIC has invested largest in the real sector. They always do with this route. GIC, Government of Singapore, Temasek owns GIC. The largest private equity in the country, they use this route. We did it from Templeton.
So it must be under
Company was formed
FII.
with 1 crore capital, 13 days old company, and we raised NCD of 1,000 crore.
So, but all the foreign companies would be having FII, right? That's what he's saying. Kind of.
Not see what happened. And
Some
under the
amount
portfolio,
FII.
under the portfolio companies, under their portfolios, they can always use that route for FII. They put under the PMS and they subscribe there.
But PM is only non-resident.
So no, then GIC is non-resident,
NRIs.
right? Non-resident, na? Debentures, security, debentures, n number of, only a limit of every quarter they give you a limit. SEBI gives the limit, not the RBI.
Even the PM is only for NRIs.
I love tea. Good tea.
Even the PMS is only for NRIs, right?
Portfolio for the securities. See, these
But
are all
only
traded.
non-resident Indians.
Today, that instruments are traded on the stock exchange. Anybody can buy.
No, it's not like that anybody can buy. You should have either you should be FII.
You have a license that register, na? So
so
then they use that, na, कि तू मेरे लिए purchase करके मेरे को उधर दे दे secondary. That's what is happening, na? You can trade, na? This is big way happening. तो जितना भी ये FDI है ना, आप स्टेट बिल्डर से लगा के सबका नाम लिख लो, सब यही रूट से आया है. सो आपका वो रियल एस्टेट में FDI वो ऐसे ही पकड़ के बैठा है. FDI तो छोटा अमाउंट होता है, बाकी सब ऐसे आता है.
ऐसे ही आता है. That's the only way.
So what you read is, you know,
No,
there is a
FDI is
Japanese
not
saying,
secured, na?
कि
This way
whatever written you believe is right, then don't read. Substance and form में बहुत फर्क है. तो RBI का जो रिपोर्टिंग है वो you to take it on the face की ठीक है भाई. ज़्यादा एजुकेशन करेगा अपना प्रॉब्लम है. So the minimum average maturity. So anything you borrow up to $20 million, you have to have 3 years minimum average maturity. Okay, so let's say tomorrow somebody give you loan and repay in 2 years, then it is not covered under the this one. So you have to have a 3 years minimum, otherwise it doesn't qualify. Repayment may be 5 years, 6 years, but average maturity has to be had. So there is a method to calculate that, which says that you daily how much you are using, then do a weighted average. So that should be more than
at the end of the
yeah, this is an example given. A product. If it is above 20 up to 750, it is 5 years. There is an unwritten rule above 750. If you go on the upload route, they ask for 7 years.
Sorry, what is this called? Put option not allowed?
So if you have a 3 years, then put and call option is not allowed. If average maturity, this is they say minimum 5 years. So let's say
Call option on a debt.
on the debt. So let's say you issued the debentures for 10 years. So your minimum average 5 years is there. But then this, if you have an average maturity of more than 5 years, then after 5 years, the lenders can call that money back. Okay. Understood? Okay.
So once the average maturity is
Yeah, subject to average maturity.
you can exercise.
But that is only in above $20 million, not below 5. and average
20 to
maturity.
750, then it has to be paid only on maturity.
Sorry?
If it is about, it is between 20 to 750 million, then it has to be paid only on maturity, prepaid. It cannot be paid before maturity, even if the average maturity is achieved.
No, no.
There is
If
some
you see 21st Jan circular,
some prepayment clause.
they said that okay, every time like we draw something or if you're borrowing for a project gets delayed, then your borrowing is also less. So every time for changing in the repayment terms, you go to RBI through authorized dealer and lot of paperwork and all this nonsense going on. So now they are given authority to the authorized dealer. Then you decide if it is within the average maturity period, you yourself allow that. So this is recent, as recent as 21st.
23rd.
33rd. So Jan is the amendment has come. So basically, like if you have average maturity, then you can have option. Now, secondly, all-in cost selling. So this is not linked to the what amount you borrow. This is what is linked to the period, average maturity. Anything between 3 to 5, you cannot pay more than 350 basis point, and anything above 5, then you can pay maximum 500. This is keep on changing, depend upon the international market condition. Now, when we say that this is all in called LIBOR is 6-month LIBOR, because LIBOR between 1 month, 3 months and 6 months, there is a gap of 50 basis point.
Right.
So they say they take as a cap of 6 months and do it.
So can I have an agreement wherein my coupon payment is linked to 3 months LIBOR
It
plus
is linked to LIBOR.
3 months LIBOR, but when I'm calculating all in all costing, do I have to check 6 months?
No, let's say all in cost when you have to check today.
Right.
So today when you do all costing, you take what is 6 month LIBOR, add the markup, it should be that way. Now tomorrow you might close at 3 months,
Right.
1 month, it is permitted.
Okay.
This is only on the day of calculation.
Okay.
Well, LIBOR keep on fluctuating, so you cannot say that. So LIBOR is floating, but not necessary that your loan agreement has to be
LIBOR
6 months.
6 months.
That any interest rate you can refix. Let's say for this month you are selecting monthly basis. When this month is over, interest rate you can do quarterly, you can do 6 monthly. Depend upon your call that whether this LIBOR is going to go up or going to.
So if I see 6 months LIBOR X amount plus say 350 basis point is what I put a fixed number, fixed interest
For calculating this.
in the agreement. Actually, when I'm actually paying, say LIBOR goes down and my actual payment goes beyond 6%, beyond 6 month LIBOR plus 60%, it is still permitted.
So it should be compliant at the time of the agreement.
At the time of the agreement.
See, they calculate when they give you approval that this is my cost, assuming 6 months. Otherwise, people are applying. Suppose what happened tomorrow? Why this clarification and why it is linked to LIBOR? Tomorrow, say I am issuing to her at a 3.5 basis, 400 basis, fixed coupon. Then how do we calculate? So what is 6 month LIBOR? Let's say it is 0.5 and 3.5. So you qualify.
Okay.
Let's say 6 month LIBOR is 51 basis point. Then it is 351, 4.01. It is not permitted. So when you fix the coupon, then you consider the calculation of the 6 months, not 1 month. Otherwise, LIBOR plus 350, they don't consider in LIBOR, only consider when you go for the fixed coupon. That is the whole premises on which they are working. Now, whatever expenditure you do in rupee is not calculated. So let's say you paying upfront fees and all that. So again, that has to be calculated. Coupon, sometimes what happens, these all goras, they take lot of upfront, so unka bonus ho jata hai. So they say your actual cosmetic it is appearing that you borrowed at LIBOR plus 200 basis point. 150 into average maturity into amount, they take as a upfront fees. So interest पूरा साल का देने का उसको डिस्काउंट करके आज ही उसने upfront ले लिया, so उसका income book हो गया, which is normally a practice. So that also you have to consider. Let's say you're paying 2% and average maturity comes to, then you allocate to calculate that one. But anything you pay to a lawyer in Indian currency, not counted. Anything you pay to Indian bank as a syndication fees or whatever rupee expenditure is not very good. So basically, if you go to ICICI and all that, they'll lend you 2 invoice access. One is for this one, and the other one is advising on the transaction to overcome this. बराबर है?
The regulation doesn't talk about swap principal, interest rate swap or currency swap, but form ECB2 has that particular. So whether it is coming out of any circular or it's a practice that they.
This is RBI basically. These banks make maximum money. Citibank, if you see, 65% of their money is from the swap and the credit card. Citibank India, if you calculate their profit, 65% of their profit comes from the credit card. का swap जो दिन में day rate जो मारता है मार दो. No, normally you don't monitor when you swap international cards, right? They debit you what they want, highest hit rate and all. Secondly, the swap transactions. So they always have some backing, and they do swapping. So swapping is like people are hedging, what you call it, right? Hedging. Many corporate, Walker is an example which went bankrupt because of the hedging. So that is over and above. So it is not mandatory other than 3 places. I'll tell you where it is.
Because to my knowledge, regulation doesn't have.
See, I'll tell you,
anything on the
NBFC
swap.
with IFC, 75% hedging is compulsory. Okay, first page number 5 पे लिख लो. NBFC, IFC, there 75% hedging is compulsory. NBFC, AFC, 100% hedging is compulsory. NGO, 100% hedging is compulsory. And HFC, जो इसमें है नहीं, जो आगे कवर किया हमने, उसमें 100% इज हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कंपनी. तो ना वो कर नहीं पाएगा अगर तुम आज ही सब स्वैप कर लोगे तो.
Can you repeat? NBFC, IFC?
NBFC, IFC, NBFC, AFC and NGO. तो NBFC, IFC में 75% hedging is compulsory. And NBFC, AFC and NGO 100% is compulsory. Rest all खाली आपको, it is not compulsory, it is only recommended. So banks make huge money. वो आपको, if you know the guideline, then otherwise बोला RBI said is only recommended bank to hedge their position.
And how is generally the ECB interest clause worded? And
LIBOR plus. Depend upon how you, today you want to fix it for an entire coupon, you fix it.
Yeah, no, but if it is a formula based, so what kind of typical formula are used? I mean, is it necessarily linked to LIBOR or it might even be linked to some other?
It can be, but overall costing should be the same today.
For the
See, LIBOR, if you see in last 10 years, have moved from 6 to 0. As of now, if you see, LIBOR is 20 basis points, and maximum it was 6%. So depend upon how you have your call, you fix it up.
and what will they this thing? I mean, what will they compare the immediate interest payment with the LIBOR?
Today's.
Agreement.
So let's say you fix up, I told you, that today LIBOR is, 6-month LIBOR is 60 paisa. And maximum you permitted average maturity of 5 years, then coupon can be 500 basis point plus 50, so 551. It cannot be above that. But if you keep it open, LIBOR plus, then if LIBOR goes to 6%, you will be paying 11%, 6 plus 5. You want to hedge it, you can hedge it.
So either you give a fixed interest rate or you give it LIBOR plus 500.
There is no other way
I
of
don't
doing
think
this.
there could be any other. Or you link it with some other.
Because where
base
such
rate.
an agreement which we I mean.
Or you say SBI PLR minus something which fits within LIBOR rate today, as of today. Is that possible?
Sorry?
If say SBI PLR is at 12%, can I say my rate is SBI PLR minus 5% or minus 7%, which is within the LIBOR?
You can
plus
agree
500
mutually,
basis
subject to, you will not be able to pay above this.
No,
But
so
in
currently
future-
it is currently
At the time of agreement, it is
You
so.
cannot. You cannot.
You cannot.
So as on the date of
See,
agreement,
let's say you and me agree, we will decide interest year to year basis. That is also permitted.
okay.
We link to SBI, it is also permitted. But in the event if the SBI PLR goes up, you will not be able to remit because that time it has to be that
So
link.
if it is fixed,
What
then
if
it
the
can
LIBOR
exceed.
goes
If it is a fixed rate, say for example, I am fixing it as say X percentage, which
In
is
your
within
example,
the-
Your
five-
example
5.59.
5.6%.
Fixed, you can give irrespective of the LIBOR.
Then LIBOR, if it goes down,
even that is.
say
Any
220
saving,
basis points.
RBI will be the most happy, na? They want to save outflow, na?
No,
You can amend.
They are not
But-
saving.
No,
If-
so if I put a rate of 5.6%, say
Today.
60 basis point being LIBOR, I am putting a rate of 5.6% in the agreement, fixed 5.6%. When I actually make the payment after a year, after 6 months, at that time LIBOR becomes say 25 basis points. So will I be able to pay 5.6 or I'll have to pay only 5.25?
If you agreed to pay 5.6, you can pay 5.6 because today you are
So then irrespective of LIBOR going down, I will still be
you'll
allowed
be
to
paying
pay more.
heavy. You'll be paying more.
So I was just trying to link it with the SBI
Formula.
PLR transaction. If SBI PLR today at the time of signing the agreement, I'm saying SBI PLR minus 7%, which is turning out to be say 5.5%.
Then you can give it. But when you
But in
actually
future,
remit,
actually remit if SBI PLR
So what they
increases.
it is not permissible. Then you cannot. In any event, whatever formula you put, it cannot exceed 500 basis above
in our
LIBOR,
example,
and
5.6.
LIBOR is 2 days. Otherwise, say Tabi ka LIBOR, my understanding is 6% and today 5, so I will borrow at 11%, which is not the case.
So either it should be linked to LIBOR or it should be fixed. That's it.
Yeah.
These are the only two things.
So floating, what you call floating.
I always thought it has to be compulsorily linked to LIBOR. Because I've
It
not
has
seen
to
any
be. It has to be.
agreement,
Otherwise,
It does that.
he will charge
Generally
you.
put the same language in the
Same.
agreement. That's what I have seen.
Always keep it. X
That's what I have seen.
plus this one, and that we also that LIBOR is monthly, quarterly, half yearly. All options we keep it. And the option we selected on every interest date. उसमें दूसरा फायदा होता है when you breakage cost is less when you prepay average maturity सब्जेक्ट आपको breakage cost कम लगती है because for the international इंडिया में जैसे prepayment penalty होता है ना वहाँ पे on interest rate you can pay there is no prepayment penalty only the breakage interest cost if you pay on the interest date there is no penalty normally it is agreed that because every interest is floating na
Just got that input today in the review that LRS has been doubled.
Doubled, yeah.
250.
Open that.
Right now?
The notification is out.
Should be. But
Tomorrow morning
the
we'll
governor
get
has said it.
तो जर्नलिस्ट दोस्त सकता रहेगा
WhatsApp, I guess. I first saw it on WhatsApp and then I checked it online.
That's good news.
सब यहाँ पे बाहर भेजना रहेगा फिर डोनेशन लाना होगा So again, who can borrow? So permission will be the investment or companies in the real sector. I'll give a classic example. I don't know, we photo with finance minister Chidambaram. Not again. If you go to the Ministry of Shipping website, okay, they say that 100% ECB and 100% FDI have been permitted in the shipping sector. Lot of shipping companies have raised money, okay, including hotel. I'm talking about 2007 FCCB, all peak market. Okay. In 2009, you get a love letter. Shipping is not a real sector. Hotel is not a real sector. And so you are violated. So you are now under automatic, including Shipping Corporation of India, which is the biggest borrower, and lender is State Bank of India. Both government. Then they came up with the infrastructure sector. If you see, so till then you were under violating penalty and all that. They ask you to compounding something and all this
And
nonsense.
they actually did that on LRS also.
Yeah.
Made you wind up so many structures.
Even that miscellaneous
That
services, for a good
FAQ,
time they are
they
not
are
defined what
Yeah.
are the miscellaneous.
Yeah, so that they leave it to their discretion, na? They don't define clearly, very clearly.
LRS
Ambiguity is the maximum benefit to
Yeah, there was
that.
no clarification that you can set up a business.
Suddenly they came out with a FAQ in
And then they
2010.
started making you wind up the structures, come for compounding. They said no, compounding notices also. Similarly, right now they are planning to do it for this ODI structures, wherein there is an indirect investment into India. ODI structure wherein indirect investment into India. They are still thinking whether to allow that or not, depending upon the facts. Because there are various ways in which you can do it. We discuss it in ODI.
So,
But FAQs are not legally enforceable as such.
No, but they said our intention was always not to allow.
Yeah, but then if I'm not wrong, then
उनका intention तो
circular
ये
they
है
did,
you should pay penalty.
one
Will you
circular they
pay?
did and second circular was again silent.
On?
That's LRS ka. You cannot acquire shares or there was some.
You are not allowed to form
You
a
are not allowed
company.
to set up a company.
Company.
Set up a business outside India. It's only meant for investment.
So you can
It's
acquire
that
shares.
A resident can make investment. So they said investment by investment. We don't mean that you go outside India and do business using LRS.
But now it is
If
permitted.
you want to do it, you do it through ODI.
Now it is permitted, no?
God knows.
Now it is permitted, but it is put under ODI.
ODI,
It
yes.
is put under ODI. You have to do all the ODI filings and compliance.
So what we did, personally me, I formed a company in Singapore by paying $1. So we paid $11 to the lawyer. And then we told one of the client, we raised the invoice there. And from there it was paid to their fees. So maximum penalty $11. Compounding में जाओगे तुम्हें. So you do that way if you have that kind of thing which is emergency, because you know to form first company and then ODI for
FAQ, they have started actually when you wind up the structure. They have not kept
so if
silent
you are
on
in
saying
Singapore,
that pay
you
$11.
sell that whatever investment you hold, you sell to other companies. There is no capital gain.
Correct. So you have to actually put it into an ODI structure, transfer it.
So these people keep on, you know, doing without anything. They just want to withhold from doing. So people are taking income there. And penalty is minimum. Specific in one of my clients has put a condition that if this if you don't hold for 5 years, this is write off. Just to go to RBI and say that winding up will be costing me a lot. They say you are holding an investment. They say unwind. I say if you unwind, then whatever your contract with that, you will not get anything. So it's a commercial agent to hold it. They cannot enforce commercially. तो चलता है वो आरबीआई में बहुत मजा आता है. When you go to CGM, you discuss all this. ठीक है चलो. तो चलता है एटीट्यूड भी बंद हो जाएगा. When I talk about this hotel, you have to took specific service sector. So only these 3 service sectors, namely hotel, hospital, and software, and miscellaneous services which we discussed in the last slide is permitted. Okay. Otherwise, real sector, we said real sector means manufacturing sector. Okay. Now, when you read this permissible, you have to read hotel into different context also. Hotel which is coming under this automatic, and hotel coming as an infrastructure. So when you have an infrastructure coming definition, the hotel project costs more than 250 crore. We have covered that subsequently. It is outside the limit of the city. Then it falls under infrastructure. Hotel in city does not fall under infrastructure.
Okay.
So if you are under infrastructure, then you have additional lenders like AFC and all these infrastructure center, NBFCs and all that. They can lend you separately for that. Otherwise, they can borrow here also, they can borrow there also. If the hotel having outside city, if they borrow outside, then they can borrow also from the AFCs and all these things. This is the only difference. Otherwise, you will find इधर भी है, उधर भी है, किधर जाओ? Direct investment in JV, only a subsidiary by way of both equity and debt, both is permitted.
Correct.
Primary process of PS. This is basically to last time जब गवर्नमेंट के पास पैसा नहीं था, तो ये PSU का जो सेकंड स्टेज का जो ऑफलोडिंग है, कोल इंडिया का, ECB is permitted to stage offer to public and all the reports. Okay, so any government selling disinvestment by government, you can borrow ECB. कोल इंडिया में 22,000 में से 60% तो आया था, इसी ने लिया. जेबी मारा इधर से उधर. और हमको बोलता राउंड ट्रिपिंग नहीं परमिटेड है.
ये वो भी वो लास्ट डे पे हुआ था.
एक ही दिन में तो होता है. This is all one day process, morning to evening.
OFS.
So IDC cost for the Indian infrastructure companies subject to IDC cost is capitalized. So it is also permitted. Land is not permitted. So basically land is not permitted. IDC also permitted, but this is only for infrastructure. So when you give your project cost, how much you borrow, so plant and machinery, land, building, IDC. So they will exclude that land and the IDC. But infrastructure, they will include IDC. This is the difference. You got me?
Yes.
So when you say manufacturing, in that you do IDC, they will exclude it. Previously it was silent, now they added, so it is now only permitted to infrastructure. O&M toll system for road and capex provided from original project cost. So O&M के लिए when toll facility is set up and you pay some lump sum royalty, that is also being permitted. Lending to self microfinance for NGOs. That is. NGOs are like now for microfinance is the मालूम नहीं वो साउथ का था ना, इसका बहुत अच्छा दोस्त था, इसलिए सब माइक्रोफाइनेंस इसमें आ गया. एक्चुअली माइक्रोफाइनेंस शुड नॉट बी अ पार्ट ऑफ
Exactly.
SKS Adula, no? What is his name? He's from Tamil Nadu, no?
SKS.
He's been ultimately thrown out. The promoter.
बस्ट हो गया.
बस हो गया. इसे वैसे ही करे अभी. उसका अमाउंट ऑफ बोरिंग कैलकुलेट करो इन पॉपुलेशन बिलो 60,000 इनकम वाला कैलकुलेट करो एंड मल्टीप्लाई बाय 35. सारा से बड़ा स्कैम आएगा. छोटा forum is I am able to talk. Otherwise you can't. What about NBFC, IFC for lending to? So all of what I have covered now, they say for what purpose? So the NBFC for on lending to infrastructure, NBFC for financing import of infrastructure equipment. This is AFC, asset finance, which they give on lease. Refinancing of existing ECB subject to fresh ECB being raised, all-in cost lower and maturity of the original cost is matured. Fresh ECB not raised from overseas branch out. So what they say that your ECB, which is now coming to maturity, you can refinance, paisa nahi hai refinance, but not from Indian branches, not from Indian banks. See, Indian local branch cannot give you ECB, only overseas branch can. So they आप गोरे से लेके आओ चलेगा.
Refinance से पैसा लेके बाहर मत दो.
Yeah. This amendment courtesy us. Refinance of bridge finance, including buyers and supplier credits, avail of for import of capital goods by companies in infrastructure sector. So let's say I am importing some equipment for infrastructure project. I open a LC for 3 years. It was permitted under trade credit at that time. Capital goods 3 years, right? I discounted that LC. So for 3 years, I got a funding at 2%, all in cost inclusive. 1% LC and 1% discounting, because then it is a bank risk, not my risk. So I paid 1% to bank and 1% at Gora, because Gora discount normally at 1% LC discounting, depending upon bank and all, DBSS discount. So you got funding for all in cost of 2% for 3 years. And then we substitute with ECB, then your cost goes up to 4.5%, about plus whatever, 350 or 500 basis points. So when I went for refinancing, they say no, the money is not directly going to this one, because that LC was discounted. Na? Supplier say, मेरे को तो कल पैसा चाहिए भैया. I discounted with the bank. So they said that the remittance is not going directly, and they refused my proposal in writing. Then we made a representation. मेरे को permission नहीं मिला, लेकिन उसके बाद ये amendment आ गया. So what we did, we got it here funded, done everything. Then we sold this asset to a foreign subsidiary. तो वहाँ पे ECB ले लिया. Companies in manufacturing infrastructure allowed for import of services technical. So this is what your question, na? Technical service and payment. So foreign collaborator means in this sense you have to read. Should be for on lending to MSME, but there is a limit of for those with natural hedge. So it is not compulsory. They are saying this is a natural hedge. There should be import of services, technical know-how, and payment and license fees. This is done fast, right? Looking at what?
No, I think we can do approval to once we can finish with automatic. Approval we can do it in next session along with this spectrum.
So this is a payment of spectrum, because again government needed money. So when you're bidding for licenses, last time government has taken 60,000, 67,000.
60,000.
This time they are expecting more than 1 lakh crore. So they allow you to borrow in rupee and then refinance it with the ECB. So ये government route है. Okay. Now ECB cannot be availed from overseas branches for Indian subsidiary. Can be availed by ultimate parent company subject to parent company. So they say that it is permitted to refinancing. Generally I told you refinancing is not permitted other than infrastructure, that too after a certain cap. General corporate purpose, which now this is very important. General corporate purpose, which includes one capital from direct foreign equity holders. So for that it is permitted. Only one exemption. Otherwise not. So minimum eligibility has to be 7 years. Paid up capital 25% held directly by ECB should not be used for purpose of not permitted in the ECB. But it is permitted for this. The general corporate is not permitted, but for this it is permitted. Repayment and all after average maturity of 7. So that I told you 3, 5 and 7. So now first time 7 is come.
This is for specific sectors. There is one more clause for.
This is for direct, but foreign. This is from foreign equity holders. So if the ITC abroad is setting up a hotel here, then he can give it for this.
But only for real sector.
And again that 1 to 4 ratio, 1 to 7 ratio.
There is one more clause. Or probably it is under approval route.
Which one?
Oh, let's see.
Which one?
Under approval route it is allowed for same condition, but it is allowed for all the sectors.
Yes.
It is not restricted to.
No.
Under approval route it doesn't cover the specific sectors if you see.
No, I think it's only
No.
under for
That
real
is-
sector, general corporate.
No.
Sorry?
I think this is the only.
So there is one more clause on general corporate purposes
Yes, which is
under
approval
approval
route.
which doesn't talk about sector specific.
Sector specific.
No.
देता नहीं है उसमें ना वो है यस है उसमें खाली इसमें है फॉरेक्स अर्नर के लिए फॉरेन अर्निंग दैट इज फ्रॉम योर फॉरेन इक्विटी होल्डर होगा
फॉरेन इक्विटी होल्डर
हाँ, तो ये-
बट इट इज नॉट रेस्ट्रिक्टेड टू दीज सेक्टर्स अंडर अप्रूवल रूट
Under approval.
नहीं इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के अलावा नहीं है इट इज नॉट इन
नहीं है कम टू 23 पेज इफ यू आर ऑन द लेटेस्ट जे में है
ईसीबी को जनरल कॉर्पोरेट होकर इसमें सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक नहीं है
फॉरेन इक्विटी होल्डर
Practically, they might not
With a
go-
minimum majority of the money from general corporate purpose, which includes subject to the following. Minimum is
सेम कंडीशन है खाली इसमें सेक्टर का
step
स्पेसिफिक
down Okay, so this is under approval.
under approval and I had informally sent it for a trading company and they said come to us we'll give you approval.
अच्छा तो पैसा वसूल कर
अभी तक एप्लीकेशन किया नहीं है
कर देना पहले तू कर देना 4 एप्लीकेशन मेरा भी डाल देना गोल्ड पीपल विल बी वेरी हैप्पी इफ यू हैव अ डायमंड और ज्वेलरी देन दे विल ट्रेड करें तो बंद कर दिया 6 महीने का ईसीबी से ले लो ट्रेड क्रेडिट में आपको 6 महीने में बंद कर दिया ना यू कैन डू विद दिस रूट देन अप्रूवल रूट पैसा खिला के काम करो
कमोडिटी ट्रेडिंग के लिए पूछवाया था तो they said we consider
तो यू
it
फॉर्म अ
as-
सब्सिडरी इन सिंगापुर उसको बोलो 25% में डालो ये तो यार अच्छा रूट बोल रहे हैं कार्तिक किया है? नहीं अप्लाई
एप्लीकेशन नहीं किया है अभी तक
एक छोटा डाल के देखना जल्दी निकल जाए
they have said that they will look at it positively they'll consider it positively for commodity trading
Okay, for even approval route, they say end use has to be compliant. That's what they say. And यहाँ पे specific है तो
See, because all the other companies are almost covered except for infrastructure everything is almost covered under automatic तो फिर approval route का मतलब नहीं है probably that's why they are trying to think because it's from an equity order otherwise
that would direct
if it's an external then it is fine equity holder का पैसा डूबा
फिर यार एक साथ तो ट्रेड में 6 महीने में बंद करवाता है फिर तुम इतना लंबा लंबा देगा there's no meaning ना नहीं
Understood.
ठीक है यार इंटरप्रिटेशन का फायदा मिलता तो ले लो फिर रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव अमेंडमेंट में आएगा
Approval
दिस वाज नॉट माय इंटेंशन
They will release an FAQ. FAQ release.
दिस वाज नॉट माय इंटेंशन दिस इज द बेस्ट एक्सक्यूज तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाना चाहिए कि वी टैक्स यू ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इंटेंशन repayment of loan in infrastructure service. So rupee repayment is permitted only in the infrastructure.
Approval we are doing today.
Sorry.
अपने सेशन में डरे सर
better
लिंक we have approval and then FTCB, SCB and trade credits.
What is not covered under ECB is under trade credit.
And can you pick up also NRI loans and all? Rupee loans. This is what we see.
This is all we talk about FDI coming in.
But rupee
NRI
loans from
is a
non-residents. Individual to individual, individual to company, obviously not allowed. This NCD structure we can talk more about.
We can informally talk.
No,
because वो कभी
no, I agree.
पेपर आ गया बोले ये स्टडी सर्कल में हुआ है. Between you and me we
No,
can
not
talk.
on the presentation, but we can at least read the law. There. The issue of LCD prima facie is permissible. We can discuss how it is practically.
I'll get one. I am Kapura.
We might not have case studies in the presentation, but we can discuss it.
As a discussion we can throw.
So it's in the FDI का queries. मैंने noted down somewhere.
Shreyas ने note down
Shreyas ने
किया.
note किया.
हाँ.
So I'll take it from it. So I need to send it to.
What is the next date now?
Next, I think 11th was there. So let's put it to 23 only. Let's have some more communication with the other participants and get them also on 23rd. So 23rd only let's meet next. 11th I was cancelling that date. 11th was also
Session
blocked.
we finished FDI.
FDI is finished. We plan to finish this
So
on
she
23rd.
paid those who are not earning, they are paying 500 rupees per lecture.
बोला.
Debit note? You paid 500 rupees for not attending? He levied a penalty to me at least last night.
So you will soon receive a
समाचार
notice.
हमसे.
Penalty notice. You can come for a
नहीं
call.
we are not compulsory. Better जब अलग कमेंट मिला.
No, so let's finish on 23rd. Let's finish with ECB and debt credits, and then we are planning one session basically where we'll call a senior from the profession to guide us on what is practically happening on both these topics. They might basically take 1 or 2 sessions. We'll go and
One on FD and one on ECB.
or maybe if he is happy to combine both of them.
I have one suggestion. When we have a topic which is big, continuity, we should have at least, Saturday session, first half or that way. And then immediately after that, you call this. Then the people will be fresh on the issues.
Right. There will be a link.
We can check for that with the person who might.
That will be, otherwise,
He's ready to
you've
come on a
forgotten what you asked, three
Three sessions.
and then it is your hearing
So
first time.
mean probably on Saturday we can have 10 to 11 internal discussion and 11 to 1 the presenter to just brush up the topic before the presenter.
That's a good idea.
So we can keep a session of 10 to 1 followed by lunch at our respective homes.
See, in India only, all foreign, if you go to other everything is paid basis. There is a counter, you order, see what happened. Here because the initial fees is high, then people are not willing to, and what they say, okay, everything they finish up to 1. Lunch is optional, so when you come in the beginning, what you want to order, you order with outside and you pay. It's big practice in Hong Kong, Singapore, even if you go on a road show, you carry your own lunch. There you have to pay everything. India में सब free का आदत है.
Although they say there is no free lunch. आते lunch के नाम से.
Yes, so let's meet on 23rd. Meanwhile, I'll start coordinating with somebody who can give us good knowledge and answer our queries. I am planning to speak to Shabir only.
FDI वगैरह ऐसे तो
वो भी आवे कि or probably if he can send some senior manager or director from it.
Samir, Kunal, they can help.
They will give us only from this very beginning. Somebody from Shabir's team will be better. Ultimately, all the queries go to them, whether they are working on it or not. Practically, they are aware about it.
PWC ना भाई जिगर रहता.
Let's see, we'll take Shabir is a member of the committee. We'll take his guidance. For FDI, so we can ask Anup if he's free.
Trade mentor, trade credit will take a lot of time. It's a very long circular.
Free to come.
Trade policy.
At least this one it doesn't have much.
These are a lot of structures.
So ECB will be
Dr.
very
Bibhi,
next.
FCCB will also take some time.
Yes, FCC will take some time.
Anusha will be first, I think. We have taken that brainwash session also in this FEMA study. Anusha. Both are taken actually, Shabir and Anup.
We should find his dates. Is what. Let's see, I'll speak to a couple of people. 23rd we are keeping this. I'm seeing a date. Should we keep it in March or April only then?
We don't keep it April. People will travel, those on corporate audits like me.
Because March again will be closing of
15 के पहले खत्म कर दो.
first week. Anyways.
23rd and then keep on 3rd or 4th or 5th March.
We can, before 10th we can finish it.
Yes.
It is not within 10 days. 28th तक चाहिए.
Which is huh? We'll have to.
But अभी
we'll
ज़्यादा
keep
time
it
दे रहे हैं
before
ना?
5 because of the budget. Budget meeting चल रहा होगा सब जगह पे.
After 5.
और ये टाइम तो लंबा चौड़ा आने वाला है. ऐसा expected. They talk keeping the market, stock market open on Saturday.
Good.
Special trading. That's what I heard.
Saturday को budget है.
So market will be open on Saturday, stock exchange. That's what the talk is.
उल्टा नहीं करके बोला था. There was, because the people are happy कि नहीं होगा.
People are happy, but the punters are not. No?
Chidambaram will be pushing.
ठीक है. So we meet next on 23rd.
Yes. So you would have everybody's numbers for that group.
मेरे को दे देना तो मैं डलवा दूंगा WhatsApp ग्रुप में. ऑफिस में बोल दूंगा डाल देगा.
प्रॉब्लम है my phone is not helping me.
WhatsApp पे अगर informally पता चलता है
I'll ask
बना
Yash
रहा
to do
है.
it.
I don't know.
I have already asked
नहीं
them
नहीं
to
उल्टा
email me all
वो
numbers.
प्रैक्टिस नहीं
हाँ.
एनकरेज करते फिर
नहीं,
क्या
वो encourage नहीं करते, but then
So these people have Excel list, so I have asked them to email it to me. I'll ask Riyaz to create it. Unfortunately, my WhatsApp is not functioning as of now.
अच्छा है, शांति है, वो प्रोडक्टिंग आवर्स
Actually काम होता
आर
है.
इंक्रीजिंग. या पे ये.
Sorry?
हाँ वो आई थिंक ले लेगा
So that they'll start it. Yes, sir.
चलो
Thank you, sir.
बिकॉज
बहुत कुछ नया जानने को मिला।
हाँ, बहुत कुछ पढ़ने को मिला। Free flowing था।
कम होता है.
पिछले दिन ना दे